So Hari Om, salutations to one and all. We saw in the earlier session about how Shabri had done so much of tapasya, and every single day she would prepare that today Bhagwan is going to come. For years together, with lot of patience, persistence, she did this because she had faith in the words of the Guru. And the power of her tapasya, the devotion that she had, made the feet of the Lord turn automatically. Tahi dei gati de, tahi dei gati. Bhagwan gave this gati to Kabandha. Tahi dei gati Rama udara. Sabari ke ashram pagdhara. Bhagwan's feet turned towards the ashram of Shabari. Shabari also happens to be belonging to a tribe called Shabara tribe, and hence that is also one reason why she is called Shabari. But more importantly, her patience, fortitude, faith, all those are important aspects in her life. Sense control, constant chanting of the name. Now it is very interesting. Shabari has been living for so many years in the forest. She does not know how Bhagwan Ram looks. She has grown. As a child, she had gone to Matang Rishi. Now she has become old. Matang Rishi did not tell her how Bhagwan Ram looks. But Bhagwan, when he goes there, Shabari recognizes. Very important point to understand here is this. The name of the Lord has the power. We may not have seen the Lord, we may not even know the form of the Lord. But the name of the Lord has the power that it will bring the Lord to the person. Veda mantras also are like that, and then the name of the Lord, it also is like that. Very beautiful point. So we may not even know how Bhagwan looks, but Bhagwan knows how he is. It's like, airport we go, the driver doesn't know the person whom he has gone to receive, so holds one banner and waits there. Mr. Rajesh. A driver doesn't know Mr. Rajesh, but Mr. Rajesh knows I am Mr. Rajesh, so that Mr. Rajesh will come walking. Same way, the power of the name. She has been chanting the name of the Lord because she has also got Diksha from the Guru. Matang Rishi has given her mantra Diksha. She chants the name of the Lord and Bhagwan automatically comes there. And she recognizes, Sabri dekhi Rama Griha aaye. See that? Shabri saw that Ramji has come. Now, how did she recognize? There could be so many, and especially Bhagwan is in tapas vesh. He has not come as a prince. He has come like a tapasvi. So he has jata and all that. So many rishis are all around. How did Shabri recognize Bhagwan? That's the power of bhakti. And of course, Bhagwan's kripa, that Bhagwan only reveals to the devotee. But if a person is not walking the path, even if the Lord is all around oneself, one will not recognize. Like that's our condition today. This entire universe is an appearance of the Lord or not. But we are not seeing Bhagwan. Our heart has to be purified yet. One whose heart is purified will know intuitively that this is the Lord. Even when one identifies a guru, how does one know who is my guru? Intuitively, if I am walking the path, if I have purified my mind, I have cultivated the required qualifications, then I will know this is my guru. So many people met Gurudev and they could recognize. So Shabri recognizes Bhagwan. So here he says, Shabri dekhi Ram graha aaye, Muni ke vachana samuji jiya bhai. Now it's very interesting. She doesn't think my tapasya has brought Bhagwan, how glorious I am. If that was her thinking, Bhagwan would not have come at all. She is thinking in her mind, expressing gratitude to her Guru. The words of my Guru have come true. It is the grace and the blessings of my Guru that Bhagwan has come. Now see, such a beautiful point. One who has spent time in doing Guru Seva, Guru Charan Seva, Sant Charan Seva, today has the opportunity to do Bhagavad Charan Seva. Bhagwan came walking. Bhagwan came directly to Shabari. She didn't have to go. One who is searching the Lord her whole life, the Lord comes searching for her. That's the question we have to ask ourselves. What are we searching? All of us are actually searching the same truth. We all want to be one with the Lord, just that we don't know. We are seeking in the world of material things, people, relationships, success, power, etc. We all want Paramanand. That is the Swarup of Bhagwan. So all of us are searching Bhagwan, but Shabari is searching in the right place. We are searching in the wrong place. Her whole life she has spent waiting for Bhagwan. And one who has spent whole life searching the Lord comes searching her. And she recognizes. That's the success of this human body. Human body is to serve people. Human body is to realize the truth. Every other pursuit that we have, if it is dedicated to the Lord, it prepares us for realizing the truth. One doesn't have to leave everything and go away. One can serve the Lord wherever one is. Bhagavan tells that to Arjuna in the Gita. That serve with the attitude of dedication, devotion. That is called Yajna Bhavana, Karma Yoga attitude. That I am serving the Lord. Bhagavan put me here in this place. I am taking care of this family, this company, or that job I have to do. I dedicate it to the Lord. Then we are also searching the Lord. Our work also purifies our mind, and we use this body to realize the Supreme. Otherwise, we use the body only for some sense enjoyment or some achievement, and they are temporary, they are ephemeral, they will just slip and go. And we will always remain miserable. You know, one of the jokes of Gurudev is, who is a samsari? One who is always somewhat sorry is a samsari, who goes on feeling sorry. Because no matter what we achieve outside, it will never make us complete. So Shabri spent her whole time not as a samsari, as a sadhak, as a bhakta. So Gurudev would joke, why is this person always somewhat sorry? Because he's holding on to someone's sari. Point is, if our mind is not dedicated to the Lord, no matter where we are, even if we are in a forest, even if we are living alone somewhere, we will still be miserable. But our home can become our ashram. See, Bhagwan Ram considers Shabri's place as an ashram. Shabri says it is her home. Shabri dekhi Ram Griha aaye. Bhagwan came home. Earlier line said, Shabri ke ashram pagdhara. So for Tulsidas ji and Bhagwan Ram, it is ashram. For Shabri, this is home. One meaning of home is what? Our own heart. Bhagwan came home, meaning the jiva returned to one's true self. Realize oneness with the Lord. Shabri dekhi Rama Griha aaye. And she fulfilled her human life. She feels so thrilled. Just imagine how eagerly one is waiting. And in her mind, it is not that, you know, every day her enthusiasm is becoming lesser and lesser and she's becoming more and more hopeless. One of the greatest lessons we learn from Shabari's life is this: not to give up, not to lose hope, but to always remain focused that the Lord will come, the Lord is real, and I will have darshan of Bhagwan. If I want darshan of Bhagwan, that. If I want abidance in the self, that. Whichever it is. Her enthusiasm goes on increasing, it doesn't diminish. In the world, law of diminishing return works. But in Shabari's case, in a sadhak or a bhakta's vision, enthusiasm, intensity of seeking increases. Because what we are seeking is not petty, ordinary. In the world, to achieve any great success in the world, how much effort, how much sacrifice is required? Greater the goal, greater is the effort required. This is the highest goal. How is it possible to achieve highest goal without putting that much effort? So Shabari keeps putting the effort and she feels blessed that Bhagwan has come now. This is the fulfillment. We may live in samsar, but we should not live as a samsari. We should live as a sadhak, as a bhakta, as a sevak, as a shishya. Either of these four or a combination. Sadhak, bhakta, sevak, shishya. That's it. Deep down, that should be our identity, that I am this. And whatever I am doing, I am serving the Lord alone. He is in the hearts of all. So I am serving the Lord in the hearts of all. So Sabari dekhi Rama griha aaye. And when Bhagwan came there, then Muni ke vachan samujijiya bhaye. She understood that this is the grace of my Guru. You see how the person who has surrendered the ego, see, she surrendered the ego first to the Guru. Guru gave her mantra diksha, introduced her to Bhagwan, the upasana of the Lord, sadhana, etc. So she has surrendered. Guru and Ishvara, they become our altar of surrender. So we should always ask ourselves, who is my altar of surrender? Only these two are worthy altars of surrender to realize the absolute. We may surrender at the altar of a country or the culture or any higher purpose. No doubt it purifies the mind, but by themselves they are limited. They can be stepping stones to understand what is the joy of selflessness, what is happening when we surrender, how light one feels, how inspired one feels. So one can begin with that, no doubt. But it should culminate in surrender to the Lord, because then the infinite manifests. Hanumanji, till he was serving Sugriv, he was ordinary. But when he met Bhagwan Ram and he surrendered to the Lord, infinite powers in him manifested. And his whole identity is Ramadut May Matu Janaki. Oh Mother Janaki, I am Ramdut. He feels very happy if somebody calls him Ramdut. He doesn't want to be called as Hanuman, Chiranjeevi, Anjaneya, none of that. Ramdut is his primary identity. What is my primary identity? I should know that. If is it Bhakta, Sadhak, Sevak, Shishya, any of these. So she has all the four. As a Shishya, she has surrendered to the Guru. She has served the Guru as Sevak. So Shishya, Sevak, Sadhak, she is doing sadhana to realize the Lord, and she is Bhakta, devoted to the Lord. Now, when she has thought of this, her heart is filled with gratitude for the Lord. When we have Guru in our life, Ishwar Darshan has to happen. There is no doubt. That much Shraddha one should have in the Guru's words and keep doing the sadhana. Karuna of the Guru and Kripa of Bhagwan, both are there with us at all times. What we have to understand is how much sadhana are we able to do, how much surrender are we able to do to invoke that and to digest and assimilate that Karuna and Kripa. It is not absent, or it is not that grace is not there with us, or the compassion is not there with us. The grace of the Lord, compassion of the Guru are always with us. That bhavana bhakta has. Akhandanand Ji Maharaj used to say, Bhakta भगवान की कृपा की अपेक्षा नहीं करता, समीक्षा करता है. One doesn't wait for grace of the Lord. One sees the grace of the Lord. So Shabri, her heart is filled with that. Now, when she saw Bhagwan coming, just see her enthusiasm is so high. Naturally, she is choked with emotion. So she cannot describe. Tulsidas ji describes on her behalf the form of the Lord. सरसिजलोचन बाहु विशाला जटा मुकुट सिर उर बनमाला श्याम गौर सुंदर दो भाई सबरी परी चरण लपटाई. This is the Sagun Sakar Roop of the Lord. Sarasijalocan, his eyes are like the lotus petals. Bahu Visala, he has long arms. You know, Bhagwan Ram is called Ajanu Bahu, whose arms reached up to the knees. And do you know, if you watch Gurudev's picture carefully, you will find Gurudev also is Ajanu Bahu. His hands also are long. And you know, he was born on the Ram Navami Tithi. In 1916, the Tithi birthday of Gurudev is Ram Navami. And Gurudev also has a broken chin. So he is Hanuman and Ram both. And he is Shiva also, he is Krishna also, he is everything. So Ajanu Bahu, long hands he has. Bhagwan Ram. Sarasija Lochana Bahu Visala. Jata Mukut. What is the Mukut? Because Bhagwan is in tapas vesh, so he has a jata. He has tied his hair, you know, with the milk of the trees. He has put that milk and he has tied, because one has to live like a tapasvi. One can't use this shampoo and conditioner and all that and, you know, wash the hair and dry the hair and make it silky and all that. Nothing. Tapasvis live in that way, that no body identification, the symbol of that. So Jata Mukuta, Sira. Urubanamala, on the chest he has the garland of wild flowers, Vanamala. Syam Gaura Sundara Bhai. Fair and dark are these two brothers. Sabari Pari Charana Lapatai. She fell at the feet of the Lord. Now this is beautiful, that, you know, Bhagwan's roop, when it is described here, the word used is Charana. Charana is the word used. Charan means the feet. Bhagwan has come in Tapasvi's roop. His feet are hard because he has been walking in the forest without any footwear or anything, barefoot. So his feet are very hard. And Shabri has been cleaning the roads, keeping everything ready for years together. Her hands also have become hard. So they are a match for each other. And Bhagwan's Shringara Roop is given here. Bhagwan is not in the Veer Roop. To Vishwamitra Rishi, Bhagwan gave the darshan in Veer Roop. To Vishwamitra Rishi, to Vibhishan, Bhagwan is in the Veer Roop with bow and arrow. And with Vishwamitra Rishi as a prince costume, you know. Because there he is to destroy the demons and protect righteousness. Here he is in Tapasvi's Roop. Bow and arrow are not described. Shringara of Bhagwan it is. Because Shabri is a bhakta. Her heart is soft. In the soft heart, this soft, gentle form of the Lord is invoked by Tulsidas ji. And Shabri is an upasak of this form of the Lord. So she has the darshan of the Lord. And then it's interesting that both of them, Ramji and Lakshmanji, both of them are young and Shabri is old. One is old age. Second is she is filled with emotions. Prema magana mukha vachanana ava puni puni pada saroja siranava. She is so filled with emotions, choked with emotions. She can't speak. Prema vachana, prema magana mukha vachanana ava. Out of emotions and love for the Lord, she can't speak. Her eyes have tears. Now, when eyes have tears and she has become old, so she can't see the form clearly. It's a hazy form. Bhagwan is still coming and she is looking and her emotions are filled and her eyes are filled with tears. Voice is choked. She has now fallen at the feet of the Lord when he has come. So physically, as though she is not seeing the Lord clearly in the first instance, but that is the real darshan. When we see Bhagwan, our heart has the darshan of the Lord. That is true darshan, not just the eyes. The heart has the darshan of Bhagwan. And that is one of the reasons why when we go to the temple also, Gurudev used to tell us this, that people go to Tirupati and, they say, Govinda, 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 and they stand in the line. That time his token system, etc., which is there today is not there. People used to stand for hours together in line to have darshan, 18 hours, 24 hours, 48 hours, and they will fast, they will chant Govinda, Govinda, all that. And then when one goes in front of Tirupati Balaji, what one does, one has not even had a glimpse for a second. One closes the eyes. By the time that person pushes you away also. But why did one close the eye? Because the real darshan is inside, in the heart. With the mind's eye, we see the darshan. Somebody says, but that we can visualize anytime. That is a different matter. That we can visualize anytime. But when we are in front of the Lord, and here Shabri is seeing Bhagwan, the emotion is completely different. You can imagine your child and your child is in front. Emotions are different or not? So much more intensity is there when there is actually the person there. So she is not seeing the Lord physically, but actually she is seeing the Lord. And so the great saints, they tell us this, that when our hearts melt, when our voice is choked, and when tears come out of our eyes, that is true darshan, and that is the purification which has happened through Karma Yoga. If seva has been done properly, these three things will happen. Heart will melt. Just remembering Bhagwan, heart will melt. Voice will be choked. Tears will come from the eyes. That is her state now. Sabari pari charana lapatai. She has fallen at the feet of the Lord as a expression of her surrender also. Prema magana mukha vachanana ava. So at all three levels, heart is at mind level, choked. Speech is choked, can't speak. Physically, she is at the feet of the Lord. Tears are falling out of her eyes. So as though she is washing the feet of the Lord first with her tears. Because fulfillment of her seva, of her, patience, her shraddha, is Bhagavad Darshan happened. Then, what did she do? Puni puni pada saroja siranava. Again and again, she is, her feet, her head, she is as though dipping in the lake, which is the feet of the Lord. So, as though she is taking what we call avabhrita snanam. She is taking a dip. Puni puni pada saroja siranava. Then she takes sadar jalale charana pakhare. She takes water. She has kept all these things ready. She knows what she has to do. So emotions are there, but this is the beauty. She has not become completely uh, clueless. So she takes the water, offers at the feet of the Lord. Sadar jalalay charan pakhare, puni sundar asana baithare. She used to clean the ashram. Her hands have become hard. Now with the water, the feet of the Lord also, which have become hard, she is washing. Now please remember this. So many people speak so many negative things about our culture, and no doubt there are certain things that could, we can improve. Our culture is very flexible in that, and what has gone through decadence, we have to revive the principles and let go of the wrong notions and false practices. But these two instances we should never forget. One is Kevat Prasang, where Bhagwan's feet were washed by the Kevat. Second here is Shabri, where is the question of superiority, inferiority, shunning away somebody when Bhagwan has accepted all, and Bhagwan meets all. He meets Guha, Nishadraj, he meets the Kevat, he meets Shabri, he gives moksha to Jatayu. He has monkeys with him in the army. Everybody is accepted and treated with love and respect. If Bhagwan treats everybody with love and respect, who are we to disrespect anybody? So Shabri washes the feet of the Lord. And in this, um at this moment, Sadar Jalalay Charana Pakhare, Puni Sundar Asana Baithare. So this is the Vasanta Rutu which has come there. So Vasanta Rutu is there where Bhagwan has come to Shabri's ashram. And in that Vasanta Rutu, it is not rainy, it is not hot, it's a spring season, beautiful time when Bhagwan has come. Shabri has collected many flowers and the grass and all that, and every day she does this. She makes asan, she picks fruits, she keeps water ready. Every day she does, cleans the ashram, makes garland, all that she does every single day. So she had made a very soft, gentle asan. She made the Lord sit on the asan. Puni sundar asan baithare. कंदमूल फल सुरस अति दिए राम कहुआनी प्रेम सहित प्रभु खाए बारंबार बखानी सियावर रामचंद्र की जय पवन सुत हनुमान की जय उमापति महादेव की जय बोलो भाई सब संतन की जय। कंदमूल फल सुरस अति, the fruits, the roots that grow below the ground, kanda and mula. So fruits, roots, all that she has collected, things which grow below the ground, things which she has picked from the trees. She has kept everything ready. Now, interesting here is that neither in Valmiki Ramayana nor in Tulsi Ramayana is the incident given of Shabari tasting the berries and then giving Bhagwan. That is not mentioned anywhere in these two. It may be there in other Ramayans. I have not read, so I can't comment. But that instance is very nice. Whatever, maybe in some other version of Ramayana it is there, or it may be a folklore that she tastes and she gives. And this Lakshmanji is very angry. What is this Shabri doing? How can she give this type of a jhutha bear to the Lord? Bhagwan understands because Lakshman is very protective about the Lord. So what Bhagwan does, he eats a little bit and he passes it on to Lakshmanji. Now it has become prasad, so Lakshmanji has to eat. And when Lakshmanji eats that, he is so thrilled. All his irritation, everything goes away because Shabari's devotion and Bhagwan's kripa. Look at the blessing Lakshmanji had. What was irritating him suddenly becomes great source of joy, and now he is eager. He can't wait for Bhagwan to finish. He eagerly wants that bear and he wants to eat the berries. So here it is not mentioned in that detail, but what is beautiful here is that Bhagwan eats. See, when we offer in Naivedya, what? First of all, Naivedya, when we offer to the Lord, we offer to the Lord what we want to eat. We make it with that thought that, okay, after I offer, I will eat. Because somewhere deep down we feel Bhagwan is not going to eat. There's a beautiful bhajan which says, no, कौन कहते हैं भगवान खाते नहीं, बेर शबरी के जैसे खिलाते नहीं. We have to have that bhav. Namdev fed Bhagwan. His father had gone away somewhere and he told Namdev ji that you have to feed the Lord today. You have to take care of him whole day. And first time he's doing, he doesn't know mantras. He's a small child. And then afternoon time, he's feeding the Lord. He's saying, Bhagwan, please have. My father has gone. I don't know the mantras, but you must have. And Bhagwan is not eating. So he gets into a mood, into devotion. He says, you have to eat, Bhagwan. Why are you not eating? I am a small child. How do I know what to sing now? Please, you must eat. Otherwise, my father will think that, I did not do my duty. And he comes into such a bhav. Vitthal manifests and he eats. Now you and I may think, oh, this is too far-fetched. We are logical, scientific, rational people. This is all not possible. Try. With that bhavana, when we offer to the Lord literally eats. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhakti upahritam ashnami prayatatmanah. I will take the bhakti of that person. That person can offer me anything, one fruit, one flower, one leaf, one drop of water. Anything. Nowhere it is said that elaborate things are required. So many people talk so many things about our culture. But if you look at our culture in its holistic nature, all these are wrong notions. Some human beings may create something, but open the books and see. Bhagwan is eating the jhutha bear of Shabri. He doesn't have any problem. He doesn't need. In the Gita, he says one fruit, one drop, one leaf, anything is okay. What is offered with devotion, I take the devotion. And where the devotion is intense, he takes that thing also. Not only he takes, he demands. He demands butter from the gopis, give me butter. And if they don't give, he will steal it also. That is our Bhagwan. If we want to remain aloof and say, no, I don't think all this is possible, then we are blocked. Bhagwan takes. So where bhavana is intense, Bhagwan takes. Where bhavana is not so intense, also he takes. How? Through the smell. That's why we do this. We suppose fruits are there, we peel the banana or we, uh, pinch a fruit a little bit and open it up. And then we say pranaya swaha, apanaya swaha, vyanaya swaha, udanaya swaha, samanaya swaha, brahmane swaha. And has to do with bhavana, not mechanically. That, oh Lord, please take this. This is my offering. With whatever devotion I can, with best devotion I can offer, and Bhagwan will eat. And if Bhagwan doesn't eat, insist every day, keep doing with devotion. One day it will happen that Bhagwan will eat. And don't think he is not eating. If he is not eating physically, he is taking it by smell. Grana. So have the faith that Bhagwan has taken, and that is how that Naivedya becomes prasad. Not just by our offering. When our bhavana is that Bhagwan has taken this, and now I am taking the remains of what Bhagwan has taken. So Shabri gives Kandamola Fala Surasati Diye Ram Kahu Ani. She gave to Bhagwan. And that Lord who is Akarta Abhokta took the bear of Shabri, that infinite Brahman who is manifested as this beautiful form of Bhagwan Ram, takes The Nirgun becomes Sagun. Abhokta becomes Bhokta. That's the power of devotion, bhakti. For the sake of love, Bhagwan will do anything. More than Jnana Bal, Vidya Bal, Dhan Bal, Dravya Bal, Prajna Bal, Pran Bal is Prem Bal, the power of bhakti, the power of love, the power of emotions. So one has to offer with that bhavana that Bhagwan will eat. In fact, the whole puja is done with the bhavana. The moment we do dhyanam and we invoke the Lord, from then onwards, that murti or that picture is not a murti or picture, it is Bhagwan sitting there. So every single offering Bhagwan takes. With that bhavana, we do the puja. Then you see the integration in the personality. Then how the heart develops. Beautiful technique it is. Senses, mind, intellect, everything comes together. We mechanically dismiss our ritual. No. So Bhagwan ate. Prema Sahita Prabhu Khaye. With lot of love, Bhagwan ate. Barambar Bakhani. And again, he was praising how sweet, how nice, how beautiful. This is also something to be learned. When somebody cooks something good for us, we should praise. And not just eat it. Arey, that person has put so much of effort and sometimes they've tried something new, a new recipe and all that. Appreciate. Give feedback. They also feel happy. Bhagwan, Barambar Vakhani. He doesn't say it is my creation. I know how the bearer, I know her devotion, I know everything. And she is also mature enough. She also understands that I know. So there is no need to express. No. Bhagwan said, Barambar Vakhani. And did Bhagwan not eat? Think about it. Sudama gave poha. He was hesitant. He thought forgotten. Bhagwan took that poha from him. In Vidur's house, he ate the banana peel. Mirabai's bhog he ate. Shabri's bear he ate. Namdev, what he offered, he ate. So why will he not eat when we offer? It is our bhavana. And Gurudev used to say, God is very demanding in that sense. He demands your full love. He doesn't want to share love with anybody else. He wants your full heart. Wholeheartedly, when you offer him, he will take. And he becomes a servant of his Ananya Bhakta. That's why he doesn't give Ananya Bhakti to people. Because when a Bhakta becomes Ananya Bhakta, Bhagwan runs after that Bhakta. See how glorious is Bhakti. So now Bhagwan ate the fruits of Shabri. Now Shabri wants to praise the Lord. So what does she do? पानी जोरी आगे भई ठाढ़ी प्रभु ही बिलो की प्रीति अति बाढ़ी के ही विधिया स्तुति करऊं तुम्हारी अधम जाति में जड़मति भारी. Pani jori aage bhai thadi. Now see, when you offer fruits, everything, see, if you see, Shabri has done Shodashopchar puja actually. For years she has meditated on the form of the Lord. She has invoked the Lord in her heart. When Bhagwan came, she gave asan. She offered water to wash the feet. She offered the fruits. All these are systematic steps of puja. Now she wants to sing the glory. That is Ashtottara Shatanamavali. She wants to sing Bhagwan's glory. So she folds her hands, she goes forward. Pani jori aage bhai thadi. Prabhu hi below ki preeti adi baadhi. When she saw the Lord more closely, her heart is filled with much more love. Kehi vidik astuti karau tumhari. How do I sing your glory? See, the word uses astuti, not stuti. Technically, it should be stuti. Stuti means praise. Astuti means one who cannot be praised. How can we praise the infinite? Whatever we say is very less. यही विधि स्तुति करौ तुम्हारी. Now you see Shabri and Kaushalya Devi. Both of them have used the same word. Shabri is in forest, she is a tribal woman, she is uneducated from the formal standpoint. Kaushalya ji is in the palace, she is a queen, very highly educated. But both of them, out of devotion, they have used the same word. Kehi vidhi astuti karau ananta. Kaushalya Devi says in the Balkand, when Bhagwan is born, Bhai Prakata Kripala, in that stuti, she says, Kehi vidhi astuti karau ananta. You are ananta, how can I sing your glory? And what Shabri says here, Kehi vidhi astuti karau tumhari. Means you are infinite. Both of them know he is infinite. So it's not Shabri, some illiterate woman. She is the most knowledgeable one. Anchored in that knowledge that Bhagwan is infinite. So how to sing his glory? What does that mean? This is the Upanishadic declaration. The words fail to describe Brahman. Yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasa saha. Taittiriya Upanishad says that. Yato vacho nivartante, from where speech returns. Aprapya. Mind and speech can't grasp the infinite Brahman. They return. In bhakti language is this, how to sing your glory. But she attempts. When she attempts this, how does she start, you see? Adhama jati mai jadamati bhari. I am of a very low community. Born in tribal family. She says, I am adhama jati. And jadamati, I am dull-witted, dim-witted woman. Just think of that. If Shabri says she is dull-witted, we don't count even in the list of dull-witted people. Forget wise people. Where are we in that list of dull-witted people? What does this mean? This is not false humility. This is genuine devotion and humility. Because in front of Bhagwan, who are we? We are zero. Nobody. This is called Dina Bhakti. That I am nobody. I am Adhamajati, I am Jadamati, I am dull-witted, gross intellect. And then she says, Adhamate, Adhama ati nari. Tinamaha may mati manda aghari. I am lower than the lowest. Adhamate, adhama ati. This is called dasya bhav. Dasasya dasosmi. I am the servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord. To be a servant of the Lord itself is humility. To be a servant of that servant is still greater humility. To be a servant of that servant is the most humblest. Now you see, Bhagwan Ram is the Lord. Bharatji is his servant. Shatrughna is servant of Bharatji. Somebody who is serving Shatrughna, what is the humility of that person? Think. Adhamate adhama ati nari. This is the Dina Bhav. Bhagwan, I am nobody. In front of you, I am zero. In no way we can compete with the Lord. How can we? Infinite and finite, they have no competition at all. No matter what we have achieved, so what? Bhagwan is infinite and everything has come by his grace. So with that bhav, one surrenders, humble servant of the Lord. Bhagwan doesn't need any of us. If he has chosen us, then we should be grateful that he has chosen us to do this work of his, which is divine work. If that complete humility and egolessness is what we serve. So this is what she says, Adhamate adhama ati nari. Mahamad, even in that I am very, very mand. I can't learn much. I can't understand. And who are you? Aghari. You are the one who destroys the sins of all people. Agha means sin. Body identification is the greatest sin. Bhagwan removes that. After that only comes all this jiva bhav and kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya, and that make us do all the wrong things. Bhagwan removes that. So he is aghari. And really speaking, if Bhagwan had to give us only the result of our karma, then we would not even get human birth again. Bhagwan gives us the karma phala with a lot of compassion. He doesn't look at somebody and say, you are sinner, you deserve to be destroyed. Bhagwan really doesn't punish. Bhagwan gives karma phala, but with great compassion. So we get more and more chances to evolve. So he is aghari. He takes away the sins of people. Even the demons he kills get mukti only. Now, when Shabari says this, what does Bhagwan Ram say? Bhagwan Ram says beautifully, कह रघुपति सुन भामिनी बाता मानव एक भगति करनाता जाति पाति कुल धर्म बढ़ाई धन बल परिजन गुण चतुराई भगति हीन नर हो सोहई कैसा बिनु जल वारिद देखिय जैसा. So he says here that Kaha Raghupati, what did Bhagwan reply? Sunu Bhamini Bata, oh Bhamini, listen to me. In this, right now he said Bhamini, in between also he will say Bhamini, at the end of this Navada Bhakti portion also he will say Bhamini. Bhamini means most beautiful one. And the only person for whom Bhagwan uses the word Bhamini is Sita ji. What does it go to show? That Bhagwan does not look at externality at all. Externally, Shabari is old, but internally, she is most beautiful. Bhagwan looks at the heart, not at the physical appearance. So he calls her Bhamini because she is the one who has done so much of tapasya, shraddha, bhakti, everything. She is most beautiful from inside. And somebody who has taken the name of the Lord so much, lived in such bhavna, done so much Guru Seva, all that, how can that person be Adham? That person cannot be Adham at all. That is Bhagwan's standpoint. From our standpoint, we surrender to the Lord with this true humility that I am nothing, you are everything. But from Bhagwan's standpoint, everybody is Bhamini, Sundar. We are all made in his image. We are one with the Lord. Not different. So he says, Suno Bhamini Bata, listen to me. And what does Bhagwan do? He doesn't praise Shabari directly and he doesn't want to embarrass Shabari also. So he gives out 9 steps in bhakti and indirectly praises Shabari by saying that all these 9 you are having. And what does Bhagwan say? Manav eka bhagati karanata. I believe only in one relationship which is of devotion. Ek bhagati karanata. Bas, only one. What is the connection of Bhakta and Bhagwan? Only bhakti. Bhagwan doesn't see anything else. Which the society thinks, which the society looks at. Society evaluates us, judges us, makes comments on us, labels us with all these 10 things. What are they? Jati, to which caste we belong to. Party, to which group we belong to. Kula, to which dynasty we belong to. Dharma, which religion we belong to. Badai, what are our achievements. Dhana, how much wealth we have. Bala, how much strength we have, power we have. Parijan, how much social influence we have. Guna, what qualities we have. Chaturai, how smart we are. Is it not true that the world judges us on all these 10? And that's the fight all the time. We have to prove ourselves in any of these or all these 10. We are not accepted as we are. We are accepted because of all these. The one who accepts us as we are is Bhagwan alone. And that Bhagwan who accepts us as we are, loves us as we are, who comes with us life after life, that Lord I am living, chasing the world, chasing the people, chasing the position, power, everything, getting beaten up by them, and still thinking that is the intelligent way to live. And we want approval of people, we want appreciation of people, we want praise from them, we want wealth, money, power, everything, then we feel I'm good. Bhagwan loves us as we are. Doesn't mean that we should not do anything actively. But psychologically, why do we depend on anything else for our self-worth? These 10 things, do they make us worthy? Or they need us? Who needs whom? Objects need us or we need objects to make us feel worthy? Objects are nothing without us. Money is nothing without us. Power is nothing without us. We give credibility to it. But today, we feel good only if these are there. If I have a particular phone, if I have a particular car, if I have particular contacts, then I feel good. I feel I'm worthy. I have arrived. I've achieved something. And still our heart remains empty. We still crave for love. We still crave for complete acceptance. And the Lord who accepts us as we are is right here. We have forgotten that Lord. So he says, Manav ek bhagati karanata. That's it, only one. These 10 are incidental. And so he says, Bhagati hina nara sohai kaisa. How is that person who does not have bhakti? What does he say here? Binu jala barida dekhiya jaisa. He's like a cloud which promises great rain but will not rain. Vari means water, the to give. Varida means one who gives water, cloud. Abhra means a cloud which will not give water. It will just get dispersed in air. Abhra is bright, is white in color, and it just goes away in air. But Varid is dark in color and will rain. Now imagine that Varid, if it doesn't give water, it is useless. What is supposed to give water? It doesn't give water. Same way, having got a human body, we are supposed to have bhakti. He says, Bhagati hina nara sohai kaisa, binu jala varida dekhiya jaisa. Means our life is not fulfilled if we don't have bhakti in our heart for that Supreme Lord. Now, having said that, as I said, he wants to indirectly praise Shabri. So what does he say? Navadha bhagati kahau to hi pahi savadhana sunu dharuma namahi. He says 9 forms of bhakti I will, 9 steps of bhakti I will tell you. Navadha bhagati kahau to hi pahi. I am going to tell you. See, Bhagwan gave Navadha Bhakti Upadesh to Lakshmanji also earlier. There he said Shravanadika Nava Bhagati Dridhahi. That time he said in Ram Gita in Aranyakand, strengthen Shravanadika Nava Bhakti. Means Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakam, Nivedanam. So he says serve that. Strengthen that. Don't, he didn't tell him these 9. What did he tell him? Those 9 you make strong so that the Lord becomes dear to you. These 9 that he is giving now, he tells Shabri, and through Shabri he is actually telling us that if you follow this, you will become dear to the Lord. Because these are qualities that Bhagavan loves. Not that that is lesser, this is greater. Both have their own significance. But I'm just trying to bring out the difference. Navadha bhagati kahu toi pahi, savadhanu sunu dharu manamahi. With great alertness and attention, listen to me. Now comes these 9 steps. Prathama bhagati santanakara sangha, dusarirati mama katha prasanga, guru pada pankaja seva, tisari bhagati yaman, chauthi bhagati mama guna gana, Karai kapat taji gana siyavar Ramachandra ki jai. पवन सुत हनुमान की जय, उमापति महादेव की जय, बोलो भाई सब संतन की जय। So prathama bhagati santan kar sanga. The first step of bhakti is keep the company of great saints. See, a candle can be lit only when the first candle is already lit. Bhakti cannot be attained by just reading books. We need the company of saints, of seekers, of great masters, of devotees. Because Bhagwan is not tangibly visible outside. Though this whole universe is appearance of the Lord, right now we are not experiencing. So to have bhakti, to know who is the Lord, to have shraddha in that Lord, when we have the right company, then we develop that. Prathama bhagati santan kar sanga. Who is a sant? जिसके संतापों का अंत हो गया वो है संत. One whose agitations have ceased, who has surrendered to the Lord. जिसका मन शांत हो गया वो है संत. Whose mind has become quiet and still at the feet of the Lord. That is called as Sant. One who is good natured, who has surrendered to the Lord. In this Tulsi Ramayana itself, it is said, Vishaya alam pata sila gunakara para dukha dukha sukha sukha dekhe para. These are qualities of a Sant. Vishaya alampat is not craving behind sense objects. Sila, good character. Gunakara, having tremendous virtues. Para dukha dukha. Sukha sukha dekhe para. The sorrow of others is his sorrow. And he goes to help them out. And his joy is the joy of everybody else. He doesn't take everybody else's joy, but his joy he shares. But he takes people's difficulties and helps to remove them. That selfless heart is the Sant Hriday. Bhakti is there, Seva Bhav is there, Karuna is there, Jnana is there, ki who is that Lord? And through actions one serves, through speech, who chants the name of the Lord, that person is Sant. And this satsang is the first means. And he says here, Prathama Bhagati Santan Kara Sangha. Do have the company of many, many saints. Satguru is one, but satsang can be from many saints. We get different viewpoints, we strengthen our sadhana. So as many saints we can meet, one should do satsang. Not lose an opportunity for satsang, because satsang comes only through grace of Bhagavan. And without satsang, vivek will not happen. Binu satsanga vivek na hoi. And without satsang, bhakti also will not arise. So satsang gives rise to both vivek and bhakti, both jnana and shraddha, both. And you know, one Mahatma said satsang is like a boxing match. You know, in a boxing match, what do? You fight. So in satsang, the sant is one, he is the opponent, and the knowledge that the sant is giving is the opponent, and our wrong notions is us. There is a fight happening between the knowledge of the sant and our wrong notions. And in that we have to bleed. If we don't bleed in satsang, that means we didn't learn anything. If we don't feel that, you know, false way of living, I should leave, I should turn towards the righteous way. If I don't understand more about the Lord, then what satsang have I done? Only fill the head with more information. So Prathama Bhagati Santana Kara Sangha. See, एक घड़ी आधी में पुनियाद, तुलसी संगत संत की हरे कोटि अपराध. 1 minute, एक घड़ी, half a minute, आधी में पुनियाद, even half of half, that is quarter minute. Tulsi Sangata Santa ki, if one gets the company of a saint, Hare Koti Aparad. Lifetimes of sins will go away. That's the power of a sant. The words that they speak will go straight into the heart and transform, because the sadhana bal is there in those words. It is not born out of some informative knowledge. It may be a simple teaching, but it will go straight into the heart because there is tremendous sadhana behind that. Ratnakar transformed into Valmiki. Angulimal became a Bauddha Bhikshu because the power of Sant. Naradji satsang for a short while, Buddha satsang for a short while, and they transformed. Swami Shivanandaji satsang, agnostic Balan got the satsang of Swami Shivanandaji, and Swami Chinmayananda was born. You see how satsang is very powerful. So for today, we will stop here in this session. 8 more steps to go. Hopefully we are able to complete tomorrow. Any questions anybody has today, then you please raise your hand and then you are welcome to ask. Okay. No questions? No problem. So we had allotted some 15 minutes for question and answers. If questions are not there, can I take little more? So that, otherwise tomorrow we have to rush it up.
Hari Om Swamiji.
Yes, sir.
I am Tara. I just, you can take some more time, but just if you give me a few minutes, I just want to talk about Guru Dakshina later. So you can please go ahead for another 15 minutes. Then, yeah.
I will do.
Thank you.
So Prathama Bhagati Santana Kara Sangha. This is the first bhakti where we have the company of the saints. Then Dusari Rati Mama Katha Prasanga. The second step of devotion is to be delighted in the Katha of the Lord. So now Katha of the Lord, Satsang must lead to this. That more and more one starts loving the glories and the stories of the Lord. Dusari Rati. See, Rati literally means pleasure. Rati is a wife of Kamdev. Our Rati is in the Vishaya Vastu Paristhiti Vyakti, in objects, people, situations. But a devotee's Rati is in the Lord, in the Katha Shravana of Bhagwan. Bhagwan enters our heart through the ears. That's what is the symbolism of Shri Krishna entering the house of the gopis through the window, not through the door. These ears are the windows, and Bhagwan enters through Katha Shravan, and he enters our heart, captures our heart, takes away all the vasanas, loots away all the butter. So how do I know I'm progressing in the spiritual life? One sign is this. More and more joy one gets listening to the Katha, reveling in the Leela of the Lord, thinking about the gunas of the Lord. So the word used is Dusari Rati Mama Katha Prasanga. So Akhandanandji Maharaj used to say that one has ruchi, one has interest, one begins in whichever way. Sometimes people are forced to go to a Katha. Sometimes they are tempted, if you go to Katha, I will give you this. So different ways are there. Some people go out of curiosity. Some people go there to learn oratorical skills. People used to come to Gurudev to learn oratorical skills. Then they get hooked on to the subject. And then they start walking the path, they become seekers. So entry points may be anything, ruchi or aruchi, but slowly it will transform into Sarvottam Ruchi. The interest and the joy in the Supreme Lord. Sarvottam Ruchi, Nirantar Ruchi, unbroken. That Katha's mood of Sharanagati, of being one with the Lord, continues through the day's activities. One remembers that I am doing it for the Lord. So Nirantar Ruchi, Sarvottam Ruchi, and nirbadha ruchi. There is no block in that, no obstacles. One is continuously able to maintain that bhav. It comes with sadhana, it comes with efforts, no doubt, but that is called rati, where one starts enjoying the katha and one remembers that, when one gets that joy of the katha, no, all other joys fade away. People talk about a high, kick. You take alcohol and you get a kick and you are in a high. Are come to the katha amrit, drink the katha amrit, drink the nama amrit of Bhagwan. All the alcohol in the world is useless. Nothing in comparison to that. That's the glory of Katha, of the name of the Lord, of the glories of the Lord. And people think that those who are bhaktas, who have not tried all this, they are missing out on life. They don't know that they are missing out something. Bhaktas are enjoying something much, much higher. And that Katha doesn't have hangover, no vomiting, no headache. We don't have to drink buttermilk or coffee after that to remove that hangover. Nothing. Katha awakens us to the reality. Katha helps us to anchor in Bhagwan. Katha gives us a tremendous source of strength. It is not escaping from problems. It is becoming strong to deal with problems of life. When I do bhakti, then I become strong. So, after listening to Katha, I should feel bhavna for the Lord. That is Katha Shravan done properly. Many people go to the Katha for the sake of purifying their ears. They say, Kaan pavitra ho gaye. Kaan don't have to be pavitra alone. Hridaya has to become pavitra. So our bhavna should increase for the Lord. Our vairagya should increase. Our jnana should increase. Our shraddha should increase. Otherwise, what we will become? Gurudev is to call people as such people who don't increase in any of these. Gurudev used to call them, they are called professional listeners. They will go from lecture to lecture, every single lecture in the town, whoever is giving on spirituality, these people will be there. But how much transformed inside, that is questionable. So our katha, the second step is this, from satsang, slowly one comes to katha of the Lord, where one devotion of the Lord is strengthened. So dusari rati mama katha prasanga. So when the ruchi for Bhagwan increases, rati in the glory of the Lord increases, then what happens? Vishay aruchi happens. Slowly I rise above the temptations, cravings of the worldly pleasures. I may enjoy still things in the world, but I know they are temporary, so I don't hanker after them. That is the glory of this katha. And katha also removes these three, bhaya, shoka and moha. They go away with katha. Is the power of katha. If I am being a devotee, if I am listening to katha, if I am doing satsang, I must become fearless. Bhaya should go in life because Bhagwan is with me. What fear I have? Moha should go in life. Delusion, wrong notion should go. Because Katha gives us the right knowledge to remove the delusions. And naturally, sorrow should go from life. If I am a satsangi and I go on complaining, cribbing, crying, then I am not a great devotee. In fact, Vivekananda used to say that person is an atheist. Who is an atheist? One who complains is an atheist. One who cries is an atheist. In what sense? That if you have faith in the Lord, why are you complaining? Accept situations as they come. And don't cry that why this happened to me, why me. Don't victimize. Not required. See what has to be done. Respond proactively. That's it. So now, moha, bhaya and shoka. Katha will remove all this. Moha is the root cause of bhaya and shoka. By giving us the right knowledge, by helping us to surrender, shoka and bhaya go away. So this is something we can evaluate. Did my vairagya increase? Did my bhakti increase? Did my jnana increase? Did my shraddha increase? Do I start enjoying more and more about the Lord? And second, bhaya, shoka, and moha should go away. Craving for sense pleasure should go away. So, 2 steps of bhakti we have climbed, 7 steps to go that we will take up tomorrow. Kavita ji has raised the hand. You can unmute and please ask.
Guruji Hari Om.
Yeah.
My question, I had 2 questions. One was from yesterday,
Yeah.
and we talked about Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, and Bhakti is the 5th. And I am thinking, and if you could clarify for me, Bhakti is an instrument to reach moksha. So, and it is Advaita. Advaita you need to finally reach, and that is the step to go to Advaita. So I wanted to clarify, and also Bhakti seems to be more tangible to all of us. So I think it is a nice. I think maybe that's why it is good to feel Bhakti is maybe the most important, and you'll finally get moksha anyway. But I still wanted to understand if it can be used as a individual unique way of like moksha, it's equal to moksha.
So there are 2 types of bhakti. One is called sadhana bhakti or apara bhakti. Other is called sadhya bhakti or para bhakti. Sadhana bhakti is the means where there is God, there is a devotee, and then I am doing puja, bhajan, upasana, sadhana to surrender. That is a means. So in that means, what am I trying to realize? I am trying to realize oneness with the Lord, which as you said is Advaita, which is what we say is moksha. When it is said that bhakti is the pancham purusharth, what it means is that bhakti is that state which is one with the Supreme. So bhakti is equal to moksha because that is sadhya bhakti. When we surrender to the Lord, then we become one with the Lord, which is the state of freedom, which is the state of moksha. So there bhakti and moksha become equal. So one step is bhakti is sadhana. Second is bhakti and moksha are equal. Now comes the third one. Why it is said that bhakti is pancham purusharth? That bhakti it is said as pancham purusharth so that the desire for moksha also goes away, which is what our Upanishads also say, where in the Kathopanishad Bhagavan says that na ashanta manaso vapi prajnanenainam apnuyat. The mind should not be disturbed even by the desire to realize the self. That desire also finally has to drop. Through steady contemplation, one realizes I am already the self. So the desire that I am bound and I have to be free has to be dropped because one understands from Jnana standpoint, it's an illusion, it is not real. That same principle where it is said desire for moksha has to be dropped in the Jnana Marg is said here in Bhakti Marg when he says, I don't want moksha, whatever state Bhagavan keeps me in, I am happy, just I should remember the Lord. So the final desire for mukti also goes away. So in that context, it is said bhakti is greater than moksha also. To make the disciple or the devotee just drop all desires, including desire for oneness with the Lord. Because in that is true oneness. Like our Gurudev used to explain, that using the desire to sleep, I drop all other desires. However urgent work, important call I have to make or do something, I say nothing doing, I just want to sleep. So using desire to sleep, I drop all other desires. Now this desire to sleep, as long as it is there with me, I can't sleep. That also has to go and I will be sucked into sleep. So from that standpoint, it is said that bhakti is pancham purusharth, but otherwise it is sadhana bhakti, and this is a part of that sadhana bhakti. Pancham purushartha bhakti is also that sadhana bhakti it is. And Pancham Purushartha Bhakti also is called Sadhya Bhakti because the devotee is not worrying about freedom from birth and death. The devotee is saying, I don't have a problem. For the Lord, I will take birth and death also. So Bhakti as Pancham Purusharth is both Sadhana Bhakti as well as Sadhya Bhakti. And that's why it is glorified in this way. Definitely Bhakti is more tangible, there is no doubt. But it is not just a praise of Bhakti to make us cultivate that Bhakti. It is a fact also. Because of this, what I just explained.
Thank you, Guruji. I really appreciate it because when you talked about sleep, so every evening or every night when I'm going to remember this, what you had said. Thank you for putting that example also. Appreciate it, and I understood it, I think. And now I have one more question, and I always have a little dilemma. And so the question is, when we attend a lot of discourses and we are learning and we are drawing a lot of information and it is helping us, it's better than doing something else, and it gets us into a good habits and makes us to understand better. But so if a person attends different things, um, I also feel it's a satsang. So when they say that it's not really good to attend a lot of different courses by different people, I'm not able to get in line with that feeling.
So what has to be done is, in the beginning, one may be exploring to find with which one resonates. So we may explore, we may learn, listen from different people, try to understand, try to analyze, try to, observe where is one's heart and what is appealing. So when one finds that, then stick to one and follow that path or that direction that is shown by that particular person. However, it does not mean that I cannot listen to anybody else sometimes. Regularly, I don't need to listen to more people now because I found one person or one path or one book, whichever it is. Then I am going to follow and make my life, apply what I have learned and transform my life. So that is one thing. But sometimes there may be some great sadhu or some Mahatma or some saint who has come. Then don't prevent yourself from having darshan or getting their satsang, because as I said, it is the heart. It is from heart to heart. It is not the words. It is not information. So we should go and meet such people. The purpose of any satsang or tirtha yatra or any such sadhana we do is to meet people who are actually living the knowledge, to derive inspiration. But I commit myself to one only. Like suppose we say, so I commit myself to the path that Gurudev Swami Chinmayanand has shown. But last year Kumbh Mela happened, so I went to Kumbh Mela and there were so many great saints. It was so amazing to meet so many different people and learn from them. But I'm anchored in Vedanta, anchored in this path of knowledge and walking that path. That one should not get wavered from. Whatever is conducive on this path or whatever can help me in sadhana, that I absorb from different places. So that does two things. That keeps our mind open. That helps us to meet new people, get their blessings, get their, the knowledge, and also helps us to ensure that we don't become completely closed, fanatic, rigid, that this alone is the truth, because truth is infinite. I may be anchored in a path, but I'm still open. So being committed to one, then listen to others, no problem.
Thank you, Guruji.
Yes, Janani Vivek.
Hi, Pranams Guruji.
Yeah.
So I just have one question about reconciling with the fact that suffering exists in this world, and in the context with bhakti, because perhaps if we approach it from non-dualistic point of view, Then the para, the supreme consciousness, is it doesn't discriminate between good and bad. It's beyond good and bad, and God is beyond human notions of morality and all of that. Perhaps our three-dimensional brain cannot understand that. That I get, but when bhakti comes into context, here we are dealing with ultimately the heart of the human being, where we develop love, humility, and attachment to the Lord. Um, but when that is happening, which is ultimately a human emotion that we're dealing with, um, and we still see suffering in the world, and when I can somehow reconcile the suffering that's created by human ignorance, result of human ignorance, kama, krodha, and all of that. But even if you look beyond that, in, like, for instance, in nature, you can see that there is no denial the fact that there's some form of suffering that exists in nature itself. Like the Buddhists say, dukkam dukkam sarvam dukkam. So when that is happening, so how do we reconcile? Like, should we just so the immediate answer that I get out of Hinduism is that it's karma. So it could be a result of karma. It could be so it's just very difficult for me to be really excited about the Lord and the bhakti. I'm able to feel bhakti. I'm able to get the glimpses of what it could, how amazing it could be, and it has definitely helped me when things are going fine. And even if suffering exists within me, it's still fine. I'm able to understand it as my personal karma. But when it happens to, let's say, somebody I love, or even a non-human, like say an animal that suffers, and when I'm in a position where I can not help it in any way possible, and the only thing I have is to pray, and I ask the Lord, and and I cannot expect all my prayers to immediately take effect the way I ask it to be, and I still see the end of the animal, and it just really bothers me. So how does when I get sad or when suffering exists, how do I reconcile and still keep up my bhakti?
So yes, it may be said karma is one way, there is no doubt, but it doesn't appeal to us, and it seems very hard-hearted or cruel. When we see the being suffering, then at that point in time, nothing will console us, and especially if it is someone close to our heart or some being close to us, or even not close to us, the very fact that some being is suffering also creates a pain in us. But this is one point to understand. The quote that you said from Buddhism, the full quote is to be understood properly actually. Sarvam kshanikam kshanikam sarvam dukkham dukkham. That's the full quote. Everything is momentary and it is a cause of sorrow. So change is equal to death. Change is equal to sorrow. I may tangibly see an animal suffering or a human being suffering, and then I may feel compassion. No doubt that is a good thing that helps me to be actively involved, and if I can do something, I should. But otherwise, the nature of the world is finitude. Sorrow is embedded in this world. There is no other greater truth about the nature of the world than this, that it is completely filled with sorrow. And the Lord himself said that anityam asukham lokam imam prapya bhajasvamam. Having come to this world which is anitya, which is temporary, and asukha, it is not an abode of enjoyment or pleasure at all. It is dukkhalayam ashashvatam. These are words in the Gita. So whether it is Buddhism, whether it is Hinduism, this fact of life I have to wake up to. That there is suffering in life, whether tangible or intangible, every single moment actually there is suffering. Because even in our body, millions of cells are dying. What can I do about it? I can't do anything. Just that my attention is not on it so much, so I don't know. But every single moment, everything is changing. So when we say that bhakti, how does it help us, or how does it reconcile? How can the Lord be like this? Now the fact is this, that Bhagwan is of the nature of changeless absolute state, consciousness, and that same Bhagwan whose consciousness has become the creator, so we call him as Ishvara, the creator, sustainer, destroyer. and then who takes form also. But the world that is appearing in front of us is not actually a modification or a creation of the Lord. It is an appearance of the Lord. So it will be of the nature of sorrow, because the objective of that is to make us realize who we are. If sorrow is not there in this world, we will just not wake up. We will never come to realize our oneness with the Lord. And so inherently there is an error in perception from Vedantic standpoint, which in Bhakti standpoint they say forgetfulness of the Lord. Both mean the same. When I don't know who am I, that ignorance of the self makes me think I am the body, world is real, then sorrow I am affected by. In the language of Bhakti, it is said, for the devotee, the greatest source of pain is forgetting the Lord. Because when I forget the Lord, then what happens? Same thing happens. Ego rises, attached to the body, see the world, may think it is real, and there is sorrow. So the nature of the world will be of the nature of sorrow at every level, whether it is at our level as individuals or at the level of the creation of the various beings. Sorrow is the nature of this world. We have to come to face that fact. We cannot escape from that fact. But when we face that fact, when I have bhakti, then what happens? I become more sensitive, because the Lord in me is the Lord in the other beings also. So I serve that, because the Lord in me is prompting me, because there is a higher intelligence manifesting here. So that same Lord in me is prompting me to serve, to help, or to even pray. And prayer should not be done as, okay, I can't do anything, so I pray. Prayer has to be done with the faith that, oh Lord, please help, please save, please protect. And it will have its impact. If we expect that suffering will completely end, that is a false expectation. It is not going to happen, because finitude is equal to suffering. The only way to end suffering is realize the infinite, be one with the Lord. So how do I respond then? Not out of just some intellectual information, it is an illusion or suffering is a part of life. That same Lord in us helps us to become sensitive, to serve. And who is suffering there also is the Lord, from Advaita standpoint or Bhakti standpoint. Either ways, if you see, the enjoyer or the sufferer is also Bhagwan, only in some other form. Somebody who is trying to save or somebody is trying to help or protect is also Bhagwan in the same form. So it is not that God is sitting up there and he has created the creation and then beings are suffering and why is he so hard-hearted? Because that has a fundamental presumption that God is separate, creation is separate, and jivas are separate. So Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara are all separated. Then we have all these questions. But whether it is Bhakti standpoint or Jnana standpoint, both will tell you the same thing, that this whole universe is appearance of one self or one God. So Karta is the Lord, Bhokta is the Lord, everything is Bhagwan. With that vision, if I see, then Bhagwan is only going through all and Bhagwan is only prompting me from within. And the objective of this whole thing is to turn to that Lord. That sorrow must help me to turn within, saying, enough now. How much sorrow is there in this world? Within me, outside me, everywhere, there is tremendous sorrow. That's why he says, Anityam asukham lokam imam prapya bhajasva mam. Turn to me. Turn to that absolute infinite reality or turn to God, whichever one, whichever path we choose. So that is what has to be understood in this context. That is how bhakti can help us to become stronger, to turn within also and to serve outside also, without getting affected and disturbed, because the false notion should go from our head that somebody else is suffering here and God is sitting up there. God alone has become all this. Every single pain in the dream is nothing but the dreamer only, who has become all the dream characters. So the dreamer only is going through it all. So that's the devotee's attitude. Yes, Taraji, please.
Thank you. Hari Om Swamiji. We've had a wonderful 2 sessions with you. And we're very, very sorry that it's going to end tomorrow. And what I want to say is, Shabari seems to be a very minor character in Ramayana, but she has all the great qualities. You introduced her yesterday, and you told us how she symbolizes Sattva-guna. And then you told us how she is the embodiment of Shraddha. And today you said she actually symbolizes she is a bhakta, she's a sadhak, she's a sevak, she's a sishya. And Lord Rama himself tells her that she has climbed all the 9 steps later on. What a beautiful character. And we are so thankful to you for explaining it to us. And as you said, satsang comes with God's grace. And we are so thankful that we are able to listen to you. And gurus lead us in the path of realization. They have themselves realized, and I want to tell everyone that they have nothing in it for them to come and give us lectures like this, wake up at unholy hour and, do 2 lectures on the same day. We really appreciate that. So they're doing it out of full, immense kindness for all of us. They want us also to realize the same happiness that they have realized. So how do we return it? The only way that we can do is to offer our humble Guru Dakshina. And I request all of you to give whatever you can to in the form of Guru Dakshina. It could be Yajna sponsorship, it could be Aarti sponsorship. Any amount will be greatly appreciated. We really appreciate your generosity, and we hope it'll help us in having more and more satsang like this. We'll be seeing Swamiji more and more, and we seek your help in this. Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Swamiji. I'm so sorry. My husband and I have to go out of town tomorrow. We cannot attend your lecture in person, but in live, I mean. But we'll catch up on that on YouTube. Thank you so much. We truly, truly, our humble pranams to you. Thank you. Vanakkam.
Vanakkam.
Okay. Thank you, Swamiji, and thank you, Taraji, for a very wonderful summarizing how Swamiji helped us learning 2 days. And Swamiji, now you can conclude for the day, and we will catch up tomorrow.
The Aarti, are we doing
Yes.
the Aarti?
We will have announcement and the Aarti now. For today's Aarti is sponsored by Kavita Murlidhar and family, and Mrs. Tara Venkateshwaran and Dr. Venkat Venkateshwaran is the sponsors of today's Aarti. Just 1 second. मधुर मनोहर मन भावन की प्रीति सिया रघुवर चरण की मंगलारती मंगल आराधन साधन की समझम नियम ज्ञान निर्मल की मंगल आरती तुलसीदास की राम हृदय अति कोमल चित की मंगल आरती सिया रघुवर की दशरथ नंदन जनक सुखाती मंगल आरती मंगल आरती श्याम रामचंद्र की पवन सुत हनुमान की उमापति महादेव की रोहि सब संतन की सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की So Hari Om Swamiji, in this we started a little early today, and we forgot to announce the Yajna sponsor. And if we have, today's sponsor was Dr. Sudha Krishna Swami and Dr. P. Krishna Swami. Sudhaji, are you there on the call? Can you open your video? Okay, so we will remind Sudhaji tomorrow when she comes in. So now you can conclude, Swamiji.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.